Welcome back to another unsettling story, the story of Lori Vallow Daybell, a woman awaiting trial in Arizona.
Yes, awaiting trial in Arizona for the alleged conspiracy to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow.
This is a trial that follows her conviction in Idaho.
Her conviction in Idaho, where she is serving multiple life sentences.
Multiple life sentences for the murders of her two children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow.
And the conspiracy to kill Tammy Daybell, the former wife of her current husband, Chad Daybell.
It's difficult to grasp the magnitude of these alleged crimes, especially with the specter of this upcoming Arizona trial. It feels like we're peering into the abyss.
Indeed, trying to understand the darkness that led to such tragedy.
Like, at what point did things cross the line from unusual beliefs into something much darker?
Well, the upcoming trial in Arizona is solely focused on the death of Charles Vallow, her fourth husband.
And it seems like the prosecution in Arizona is determined to present a very focused case, primarily addressing her alleged involvement in Charles Vallow's death.
Yes.
They're even choosing to exclude any evidence related to Lori's extradition issues.
Right, which speaks volumes about their strategy.
It does.
They seem to believe that Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who is now deceased, shot Charles Vallow in cold blood.
In their Chandler, Arizona home.
Yes, and they are working to connect Lori directly to that act.
It's a tragic echo of the deaths of her children, Tylee and JJ, whose remains were found buried on Chad Daybell's property in Idaho.
The ripple effect of this case is vast, touching so many lives with a profound sense of loss.
The case transcends state lines.
It does. Charles Vallow was killed in Arizona while the other victims met their tragic end in Idaho. This jurisdictional complexity necessitates separate trials, with each focusing on the crimes committed within its borders. The Arizona trial will specifically address the death of Charles Vallow.
And this is where the alleged belief system enters the narrative, a belief system that reportedly involved dark spirits and zombies.
Yes.
It's hard to reconcile these concepts with the reality of the crimes, but they appear to be central to the prosecution's case.
The belief system is expected to play a significant role in both Lori's Arizona trial and Chad Daybell's sentencing in Idaho. He was recently found guilty on all charges,
Including 3 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of insurance fraud.
That's right, and the jury has recommended the death penalty.
It's almost as if they were operating in a world divorced from reality, a world where their alleged beliefs gave them a warped sense of justification. And what's truly unsettling is the possibility that this belief system may have been used not only to justify the crimes, but also as a means of manipulating others.
Prosecutors allege that Lori and Chad believed they could identify individuals possessed by dark spirits.
And that eliminating the physical body was the only way to free the trapped good spirit.
Correct.
It's a chilling concept, one that seemingly blurs the lines between faith and fanaticism.
Alex Cox, Lori's brother, initially claimed self-defense in Charles Vallow's death,
Stating he shot Charles after being struck with a bat.
However, investigators have since uncovered evidence contradicting his claim, suggesting manipulation may have been involved.
Adding another layer of complexity, Alex Cox is no longer alive to provide his account or be cross-examined. It's a void in the narrative that leaves us with more questions than answers.
The prosecution believes that Lori and Chad may have manipulated Alex, perhaps preying on his vulnerabilities or influencing him with their apocalyptic ideologies. The absence of Alex Cox's testimony creates a significant challenge, leaving the prosecution to piece together events from circumstantial evidence.
And with Lori representing herself in the upcoming trial, it creates an added layer of uncertainty.
Yes, her decision to waive her right to counsel raises many questions. Will she try to shift the blame onto her deceased brother? Will she claim she was manipulated by Chad?
Or will she embrace the alleged belief system as a defense strategy, even suggesting it somehow justify her actions?
It's hard to imagine what defense she might present.
Will she deny any involvement, attempt to discredit the evidence?
Or even try to use her alleged beliefs as a shield?
One key piece of evidence likely to be presented in the Arizona trial is a text message exchange between Lori and Chad, where they discuss a perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children.
Right.
This message was sent just before the children disappeared and could be a pivotal element in the prosecution's case.
Absolutely.
The premeditation suggested by this message is deeply unsettling. It implies a level of calculated planning that is difficult to comprehend, especially when we consider the victims involved were her own children.
And then there's the disappearance of the children.
16-year-old Tylee Ryan.
Last seen in September 2019 on that trip to Yellowstone.
With Lori, JJ, and Alex Cox.
And little JJ, just 7 years old.
Last seen a few weeks later at Lori's apartment in Rexburg.
Their vanishing act was what first brought this case into the national spotlight.
Those initial months of uncertainty, the frantic search for those children.
It captivated the nation's attention.
And then the devastating discovery of their remains on Chad Daybell's property. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of life.
Especially for those who are most vulnerable.
Especially for those who are most vulnerable.
It was June 2020 when that heartbreaking discovery was made. Tylee and JJ buried on Chad's property. This shifted the case's trajectory, leading to additional charges, including first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder against both Lori and Chad.
It's almost unimaginable, the pain their family must have endured. And during all this, Lori maintained this facade.
Claiming JJ was safe with a friend in Arizona, a blatant lie that unraveled as authorities investigated further.
When police went to Lori's apartment for a welfare check on JJ, they found it deserted.
Lori and Chad had fled to Hawaii, where they were later discovered. And Lori was arrested for desertion and non-support of her children. This act of fleeing while their children were missing seemed to add another layer of suspicion to their already questionable behavior.
And all the while, she was still collecting Social Security benefits for both children.
A detail that underscores the potential financial motivations woven into this complex narrative? Yes, the financial aspect is certainly a thread that runs through this entire case. Prosecutors believe that financial gain played a role, particularly for Chad. The alleged belief system, with its talk of zombies and dark spirits, might have served as a convenient cover, a way to mask more earthly motives.
So Chad's beliefs were even too extreme for the Mormon Church. What exactly was he preaching that got him kicked out?
Chad Daybell was excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. His teachings, which focused on near-death experiences, visions, and preparing for the Second Coming, deviated significantly from traditional Mormon doctrine.
He claimed to have special insights into the spiritual realm.
Attracting followers who were drawn to his apocalyptic message.
And it was at one of these preparing a people events,
Focused on the Second Coming.
where he and Lori reportedly crossed paths, a meeting that seems to have marked a turning point in both their lives.
It appears Lori was particularly susceptible to Chad's teachings. Former friends and family have described her transformation. From a devout Mormon to someone deeply engrossed in these apocalyptic ideologies, this shift coincided with increasingly erratic behavior, including claims that her own children had become zombies possessed by dark spirits.
It's chilling to think about the potential influence Chad might have had on Lori. Was she a willing participant in these beliefs, or was she manipulated, drawn into his web of apocalyptic pronouncements?
Beyond the children in Charles Vallow, there's another death that casts a long shadow over this case. Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife. Her death in October 2019, just weeks before Chad and Lori married in Hawaii, initially seemed like a tragic but unrelated incident.
At the time, her death was attributed to natural causes.
Yes.
However, as the investigation into the children's disappearance progressed, authorities began to re-examine the circumstances surrounding Tammy's death. It's like pulling on a loose thread, and suddenly the whole tapestry starts to unravel.
Yes, authorities exhumed Tammy's body and conducted an autopsy, though the results have not been publicly released. However, they have stated that her death is considered suspicious. Her sudden passing, followed by Chad's hasty marriage to Lori, raised significant red flags.
And there were other unsettling details. Just weeks before her death, someone shot at Tammy with a paintball gun in her driveway. It's a bizarre and unsettling incident that was never fully explained.
It's a detail that, in hindsight, takes on a much more ominous significance. Chad at the time dismissed the concerns of Tammy's family, insisting on her cremation just days after her death. It was an act that, to some, seemed to suggest a desire to conceal potential evidence.
So while Tammy's family was grieving, Chad and Lori were already forging a new life together in Hawaii, seemingly indifferent to the mounting suspicions surrounding them.
And let's not forget the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreau, the ex-husband of Lori's niece, Milani. In October 2019, just a few weeks after Tammy Daybell died, someone shot at Brandon. From a Jeep registered to Charles Vallow, this incident, though seemingly unconnected, adds another layer of complexity to this already intricate web.
It's a detail that underscores the potential reach of this alleged conspiracy. The fact that the Jeep used in the attempt on Brandon's life was registered to Charles Vallow suggests a possible connection. a widening circle of individuals caught in the crosshairs of this unfolding drama.
Brandon later identified the Jeep as one that Tylee Ryan, Lori's daughter, had been driving. Investigators believe that Alex Cox was the shooter, acting at Lori's behest. The motive, possibly tied to a custody dispute between Brandon and Milani, who, like Lori, had become deeply involved in Chad Daybell's apocalyptic teachings.
It makes you wonder about Milani's role in all of this. Though she hasn't been charged with any crime, her proximity to the events, her embrace of Chad's teachings, it all casts a shadow of suspicion.
Her ex-husband has openly stated his belief that Milani is aware of what happened to the children and might have played a role in their disappearance. It's a claim that, though unsubstantiated, adds to the intrigue surrounding this case.
It seems like every corner we turn in this case reveals another dark connection, another life touched by this tragedy. It's a chilling reminder of how easily a belief system, no matter how outlandish, can be twisted and manipulated, especially when coupled with the allure of financial gain.
It's a complex interplay of factors, and as we await Lori's trial in Arizona, we're left to grapple with the potential motives behind these horrific acts. Were they driven by a genuine, albeit misguided, belief in dark spirits and the need to release souls? Or was this belief system merely a smokescreen, a tool used to justify actions motivated by greed and a desire for a new life with Chad?
As the legal process moves forward, it's almost as if we're piecing together a puzzle, with each new revelation adding another fragment to the larger unsettling picture. And with Lori representing herself, it introduces a wild card into the proceedings.
Her lack of legal expertise could prove to be a significant obstacle, but it also allows her to control the narrative within the courtroom to a certain extent. We've seen her willingness to challenge the legal system, from waiving her right to a speedy trial to opting for self-representation. It suggests a certain level of audacity, a belief that she can outmaneuver the system.
Looking at the evidence, it seems like the prosecution has a pretty solid case. But here's the wild card. Lori representing herself. What are the chances she could actually pull this off?
The prosecution in Arizona, you see, isn't required to prove Lori directly killed Charles Vallow. Their focus is on proving she conspired to commit murder, which means demonstrating she agreed with others to carry out the act and took steps to advance the plan. This distinction lowers the burden of proof for the prosecution, relying on evidence of her involvement in the planning and execution of the alleged crime.
So they'll be using evidence similar to what was presented in Chad Daybell's trial.
Right. Text messages, witness testimonies, financial records.
They'll be drawing connections, highlighting her statements and actions, painting a picture of her alleged involvement in the conspiracy.
They will likely highlight those text messages, where Lori refers to individuals as zombies and discusses plans to cause physical death, to those she believed were possessed.
Wow.
It's chilling language that provides a glimpse into her mindset during that time, and they'll likely call upon former friends and family members who can attest to her transformation, her increasingly erratic behavior, and her embrace of Chad's apocalyptic pronouncements.
The prosecution will aim to build a case that leaves no room for doubt, a case that meticulously dismantles any potential defense strategy Lori might present.
But they do face challenges, especially with the absence of key figures who can no longer provide testimony.
Like Alex Cox.
The most significant challenge is the absence of Alex Cox, Lori's brother. With his passing, a crucial voice in this narrative is silenced. He cannot be cross-examined, and his motives and actions cannot be fully scrutinized. The defense might seize this opportunity to cast doubt on his alleged role, suggesting he acted alone or that the evidence linking him to the crimes is unreliable.
They might also try to downplay Lori's connection to Chad Daybell's apocalyptic beliefs, arguing that she was a mere follower, easily swayed by his charismatic personality and pronouncements. They might portray her as a victim of manipulation, someone who lost her way amidst a whirlwind of unsettling beliefs.
But the prosecution will likely counter these arguments by highlighting Lori's own words and actions. The text messages where she embraces the language of zombies and dark spirits, her alleged pronouncements about her own children being possessed, these are powerful pieces of evidence that suggest an active embrace of these beliefs.
And the fact that she fled to Hawaii with Chad while her children were missing, all the while collecting their Social Security benefits. These actions speak volumes about her potential motives and her willingness to deceive. It's a pattern of behavior that the prosecution will undoubtedly emphasize.
Of course, the defense might point to the fact that Alex Cox was the one who pulled the trigger, that Lori wasn't physically present at the scene of the crime. They might argue that the prosecution's case relies heavily on circumstantial evidence, a web of connections rather than a smoking gun.
It's a high-stakes legal battle, A fight for justice amidst a sea of unsettling allegations and unanswered questions. Ultimately, it will be up to the jury to weigh the evidence, to determine whether the prosecution has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Regardless of the outcome of the Arizona trial, Lori Vallow Daybell is already facing a lifetime behind bars for her convictions in Idaho. The Arizona trial, however, offers an opportunity for the justice system to address her alleged role in Charles Vallows' death, to hold her accountable for all her alleged actions, and to perhaps provide a semblance of closure for those impacted by this tragedy.
This case has captivated the nation, not just because of the horrific nature of the crimes, but also because of the unsettling questions it raises about the power of belief, the allure of manipulation, and the dark potential that can lurk within seemingly ordinary lives. It's a chilling reminder of the fragility of truth, the ease with which it can be distorted and manipulated, and the devastating consequences that can follow when reality is eclipsed by a shadow world of twisted beliefs. As we await the start of Lori Vallow Daybell's trial in Arizona, we can only hope that the legal process will shed light on the darkness that has enveloped this case, offering some measure of solace and justice for those whose lives have been irrevocably altered by this tragedy.